There are three pillars of democracy that are needed to ensure it functions: an ethical, competent government that governs for all, a strong opposition can hold that government to account, and a brave, non-partisan media. If the government reveals itself to be incompetent or corrupt or both, then the other two pillars bear more of the load of democracy until the people can rectify the problem with the government and vote them out, hopefully replacing them with a better government. As we've shown in previous videos, a lot of Australians have lost faith in the mainstream media. With Rupert Murdoch's News Corp owning around 70% of Australian media, the mainstream media has become increasingly partisan. Even the ABC has not been immune, under constant attack and subject to funding cuts as it is. And the government is currently demonstrating both its incompetence and corruption in full public view. We're now dependent on a strong opposition to stand up for the people. Anthony Albanese, you seem like a decent guy. We know you grew up in social housing in Sydney, in a single-parent family. We know you're a man of the people. You've talked about that repeatedly. But now we need more from you as an opposition leader. We understand you didn't want to be seen to be opposing the federal government at the height of the COVID crisis or undermining the health message. I get that. Not that it stopped either the federal government or the state Liberal oppositions against Dan Andrews or Palaszczuk or Mark McGowan, but hey, that's another story entirely. We've seen some stellar opposition in Senate estimates from Penny Wong, Christina Keneally and Katie Gallagher. They've been ripping shreds off the likes of Aged Care Minister Richard Colbeck in the Senate, as well as speaking up for Aussie stranded overseas and demanding a federal ICAC. Jim Chalmers, Chris Bowen, Jason Clare, Tony Burke, Ed Husick, they've all put out some memorable social media posts, tweets, memes and videos. Unfortunately, none of them are the opposition leader, Albo. You are, and you're not cutting through. Your budget reply speech exceeded all expectations, particularly the childcare policy. However, it was Shadow Treasurer Jim Chalmers who gave a much more memorable statement on Frydenberg's budget, calling it the most expensive missed opportunity in the COVID recovery. Stop playing it safe, Albo. Dyed-in-the-wool Labour Party supporters frequently lament that the media is, if not working actively against you, at the very least it's not providing a level playing field for you to get your messages out on. But that's nothing new. The privately owned media in this country have been openly campaigning against Labour for decades. There's no point whining that you could have won in 2019 if the media hadn't been mean to you. You need to deal with the media environment you're in and not play fantasy football about the one you wish you were in. And this is 2020. Elections aren't won on television anymore. There's a whole generation of young voters that only get their news and views from social media. And on social media, there's no gatekeeper stopping you from reaching out to the electorate directly. There's a reason Friendly Geordies has hundreds of thousands of followers, and the groups like ours Reclaim the News are growing in popularity. Even Donald Trump says that Twitter is like having his own newspaper. So start talking directly to your constituents and cut the mainstream media out the loop. Just one of the scandals this government is currently embroiled in would have brought down a government back in the day when politicians still had a sense of shame and a belief that they served the Australian people. Let's run through them quickly. Sports frauds, community development frauds, Watergate, robo-deaths in aged care, the gas-led recovery designed by gas company executives, hand-picked by the Prime Minister, the COVID Save app, which cost $70 million when you take into account advertising costs and found less than 20 cases, the purchase of land from Liberal Party donors for West Sydney Airport, 10 times its market value. Albo, you and your team should be relentless in getting these scandals out to low information, disengaged voters, along with letting them know what you'll do if you win government. A lot of this stuff predates the COVID crisis anyway, so why don't let the government hide behind COVID to avoid scrutiny? Albo, you should have been more vocal in support of the Labour premiers over borders and lockdown. I'm pretty sure Dan Andrews and Victoria could have done with your presence. And what's stopping you getting behind Rudd's petition for a Royal Commission into the concentrated media landscape and Murdoch? Murdoch's going to lay into you whether you support that petition or not. I mean, Malcolm Turnbull signed that petition, for goodness sake, as of over 450,000 Australians. And stop with the puppy that rolls over routine. Why did you need to support Matthias Cormann for the top job at the OECD? Obviously, the biggest issue facing us is climate, and you're losing support by not standing strong against coal and the gas-led recovery. I'm not going to go into this too much because I just put out the video on Joel Fitzgibbon, who's apparently explaining what Labour's energy policy is. At the very least, Albo should be firing Joel from your shadow cabinet. And here's an idea. Work with the Greens instead of attacking them. Together your parties could be a force for progressive change. think Dan Andrews and the Queensland electoral victory for Anastasia Palaszczuk shows that Australians get behind a strong Labor leader who isn't afraid to stand up to media bullying and bullying for the LNP. But what kind of worries me is that you and Morrison may be just all friends together, hanging out in your footy scarves or in the Canberra bubble. However, we don't want another daggy dad trying to beat Morrison in his own daggy dad routine. One's plenty, thank you. And we also don't want to hear you playing the long game and waiting to oppose either. So Chris Wallace, in her excellent book, How to Win an Election, talks about character of leadership. She wrote, winning the theatre of politics does not always come down to good looks, likability, or the ability to scoff sausages like a local. It does always come down to the better performance. A leader who can do the substance and theatre of politics, albeit a competitor can only do the substance or theatre of politics every time. JFK, Obama, Churchill, Hawke had these traits in spades. Albo, if you can't do the substance and the theatre of politics, then you might need to consider stepping aside for the good of the party and the country and let them appoint someone who can, because only someone who can do both of these things is going to be able to shatter the illusion that Scott Morrison has any substance whatsoever. Unless you do that, you're going to be in opposition for some time to come. So don't take these words personally, please heed them, because we desperately want and need you to succeed. There's no need to be a Tony Abbott who opposed everything for the sake of opposing, but please, no more Mr. Nice Guy either.